Hi, I'm Margaret, and welcome to Garden School. It's the very beginning of September, and it's very obvious that the seasons are changing. The days can still be warm, but the nights are a bit cooler, and the intensity of the sun is much less than it was a month or even 2 months ago. So we're noticing that. Things are starting to wind down in the vegetable garden and in the flower garden. And mainly the focus is on harvesting, keeping those tomatoes picked, keeping that squash picked, keeping those green beans picked. But I have some empty space in my pea patch, and we do have still a little bit of time before our growing season is really cut to a standstill. So I'm thinking, what can I put in this little area that will have a short days to maturity that I can still get some goodness from before frost kills or before things just stop growing and stay dormant until the days lengthen again. Now, some vegetables will do that. Some in the brassica family will grow to a certain size, and then as the temperature cools, they just kind of go dormant until the light picks up again after, as we approach the spring time or the late winter. Well, one thing I can grow in here is spinach. Now, I looked at a seed packet at the nursery, and it said 45 days to maturity. Well, I'm going to think about that from when they're germinated until I could harvest. So that's a month and a half. It's the beginning of September, so that means mid-October. But also I noticed that the germination time could be 10 to 14 days on those seeds. So that means I have to add 2 more weeks. So I'm looking at perhaps the beginning of November when I could harvest that. In our climate, who knows, maybe that would be perfect and they will grow really fast and we'll get a lot of heat on the sunny days in this fall time. But maybe it'll be rainy and cloud cover, not much light, and a little coolish. So the growth rate won't be as rapid. So I think what I'm gonna do in this situation is to go to the nursery and see if I can find some seedlings. That way, I know those are already going, and it should be like 45 days, perhaps a little bit less, depending on the size of the seedlings, until I can harvest and generate some salads from that spinach. Well, let's go to the nursery and see what we can find. So this is what I found when I went to the nursery. I got a couple of trays of spinach. It's a variety called Corvair. I'm not familiar with it. And it does say 40 days to maturity. And so I'm going to assume that that will be about the first half of October. I should be able to have some leaves that are edible. Now, I will say these were a little bit on the pricey side for me. I had a special deal at the nursery, so I got a discount on them. But why wouldn't I just buy the seeds instead of buy the starts? Well, we talked about the length of time it would taking to maturity. That would be a little bit too long if I had to include the germination time. But also, when I was going to plant them, if it was like 2 weeks ago, it was too hot and I would not have gotten good germination just because of the heat. This is the area that I was thinking of for planting my spinach seedlings. Now, I still have some dahlias growing, that's fine. And I had peas here, and the peas came out maybe 2 weeks ago. So I can clear away that straw and get my little seedlings popped in there. Pop these out of the 6-pack, and I'm just going to place them, maybe a foot apart. The tag on the pack says 18 inches. I'm going to space them a little bit closer, and we'll see how that goes. I got my little row of spinach starts planted, and you see there's a volunteer nasturtium in the way. I'm going to let that grow for a little bit. I don't think that's going to be a problem at this time of year. I will move the straw mulch back around, and then I'm going to give it a good water. Now the reason I'm moving the straw mulch back around is because it will help to retain moisture in the soil and offer a little protection should we still get some days that have some heat degrees in which we want to protect and watch out for newly planted seedlings. One other thing I'm going to do now that I've planted my seedlings and I've watered them in, I'm going to provide some protection from some little rodents that I know exist here in the pea patch. So I'm going to use a chicken wire and just make a little cloche to kind of cover them, or maybe I'll make a little fence. We'll see how this goes. I just want to keep the little bunnies and things like that and the voles from walking right into having a delicious salad bar. So there's my little protective barrier. It's only about 5 or 6 inches tall. As these things grow, I may need to take this off, and maybe at that point I'll put a floating row cover on over some sticks or something like that. We'll see how that goes. Well, that's good. You guys are now ready to grow. Now here's the handbook that I like to go by and see what's going on for the month. And in the month of September, there's a lot more things than spinach that it says you can go ahead and plant if you're looking for some vegetables for the fall. So we could plant beets if we wanted greens. We did plant spinach, Swiss chard, chervil, or cilantro. And then lots of the mustard family, lots of the brassicas could be planted as well. Now the asterisk there indicates that they could be damaged. Some of these could be damaged by cold winters. So they suggest a cloche, and even under a cloche they could be damaged. And then also the lettuce and lettuce variations could be planted at this time. When I was looking at seeds, I did find some mesclun mix, and this is a combination of greens for salads, or I suppose for stir fry too, and it says 20 days to maturity. Now 7 to 10 days for germination, but that could be like within a month I could be clipping some of this and enjoying it. I'm going to try that in a container here at home so I can keep a good eye on it, make sure it's got adequate moisture and is not in too hot of a place as it's starting to germinate and take hold. I have another tool that I like to use, and that is a garden planner. Now on this side it's for fall planting, and on the opposite side it's for spring planting. What you want to do is find out when is your average first fall frost date, and in my area it is around October 25th. Now that's an average, it could vary, but I'm going to line that up as the average. Then I'm going to look down here, spinach, there we go, and I'm going to follow this along here. LP, that means my last planting date. Let's see when my last planting date would be. Oh, September 6th, cool, I'm right in the window. And then let's go along further. When would my harvest dates be? Those green checks, that would be perhaps October 4th. That's great. This is a cool tool that you might want to take a look at. There are probably other kinds of things too, but the important thing is to know when is your average first fall frost date. Well, it seems like I'm still coming up to the pea patch to harvest, especially green beans right now, on a semi-daily basis. Every other day it seems like I'm up here. And I will be checking on the spinach seedlings, especially if we get some warmer days, to make sure that they have adequate moisture and don't dry out. We don't want them to give up the leaf stage, the leaf producing stage, and go right to the seed producing stage. We don't want that to happen. I don't think it will, I hope. Well, I hope that you are able to do something like that to extend your growing season for your veggies and have some fresh salad greens as we go into the fall. Well, there's always more to learn in the garden. Bye-bye.